Ready. Jesse, we good? All right. So for the record, this evening is Thursday, February 13th, 2020, and the Wenatchee City Council is out of executive session. I've called the meeting to order. We always start our meetings with a pledge to our flag. So Councilmember Kulas, would you lead us?
Thank you. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Kulas. And for roll call this evening, we have 5 council members here. We have Councilmember Esparza on the phone, and Councilmember Harold is not with us tonight. So we have 6 present. First item on our agenda, the consent items, which includes this evening's agenda, vouchers, and the minutes from the previous meetings.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, vouchers, and minutes from previous meetings.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Bailey to approve this evening's consent items, which includes this evening's agenda, vouchers, and the minutes from our previous meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our council agenda tonight are citizen comments. So if any member of the audience wishes to address the city council on anything that's, we have a couple public hearings tonight. So if you're here to address the public hearing items, which is our housing code scrivener's error and the hours for marijuana-related businesses, we will take public testimony during that time. If you want to talk about anything else that's on this evening's agenda or anything that's not on today's agenda, we'd ask that you come up and give us your name and address, and we'd give you about 3 minutes. So come on up.
You want us to sit down or stand up?
Sit down. Name and address. Wave to all the people at home that are watching you on YouTube Live.
How did you know?
Huh?
My name is Alma Chacon, Wenatchee, 614 Highland Drive. I'm here representing CAFE, the Community for the Advancement of Family Education. And with me is Laura Rivera, coordinator of Café por la Tierra. And she's got a special invitation for all of you.
Oh, great.
So like she said, my name is Laura Rivera. I am the coordinator for Café por la Tierra, and we are here to invite you to an event we will be hosting on the 29th of February. And this is for all council members as well. We are here to invite you to join us at our culminating event, El Valle en Acción, Comunidades Adaptadas al Fuego. The event will be held on Saturday, February 29th at the Pybus Public Market Event Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Community representatives from Café, Parque Padrinos, Latino Community Fund, Sachamama, and WAFAC have joined forces to launch the Climate Innovation Lab, an 8-week climate solution incubator that empowers participants to build healthy, more resilient communities in relation to wildfires and smoke. As part of our education efforts, we decided to host an outreach event to inform Latinos on how to better live with fire, connect them with organizations working on the issue, and develop the leadership of our community on fire adaptation. We personally invite you to attend our event on February 29th to see the fruits of our labor. As a partner, we have valued your time and insight to help us learn on this important issue, and we will like you to play a leading role at the event. We have space during the outreach sessions where you may present 20 minutes on your organization's work and/or projects. We believe this is a great opportunity for you to further connect with our community and for the community to learn what your organization is working on within wildfire adaptation space. We are excited and honored for the possibility to have you at our event, where we will be inviting other members to join us as we share, inform, and engage our community on how to better live with fire and smoke.
So as you know, we have fires in our area pretty much every year, and we've gotten so kind of desensitized. Now we see, oh, there's another fire. Oh, there's more smoke. Okay. So we're very happy to have the Latino community engaged in learning more about the wildfires and how do we prevent and why are they good? Why are they not good? And how do we take care of ourselves and our health? So we're pretty excited about this new learnings for our Latino community, and we'd like to invite you. And I think as a city, you could take about 20 minutes to share with us what is happening in the city with regards to fire prevention.
So we will make sure that we are there, and you give us a 20-minute slot, we'll figure out a way to fill it and talk about that stuff. So,
Thank you.
yeah, and we're excited for the event, and we'll coordinate amongst ourselves as to who's there, but. yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Sounds
much.
great.
And if you could help us open the day, that would be great.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have more takers who'd like to address the council on this or any other item that you might want to just talk to us about? Seeing no other takers, we move on pretty quickly. All right, so we've got two presentations this evening. The first is regarding the 2020 National, we've been talking about this, Dahlia Show Proclamation. We're struggling with how to say it. Dahlia. Got it. So Commissioner, who's got it? Councilmember Hornby, you got that?
Yes.
If you'd read that in the record, please.
You're on the proclamation, whereas Wenatchee is home to Confluence Health, Rocky Reach Dam, and Pybus Public Market, all of whom have hosted and maintained beautiful public dahlia gardens to enhance the environment and for citizens and visitors alike to enjoy. And whereas Wenatchee enjoys a combination of natural environmental conditions, including sunlight, soil, and water, that have promoted the increase in dahlia growing in Wenatchee homes and gardens, with blossoms peaking in maturity and beauty during September. And whereas the strength of the dahlia comes from its rich diversity in color, form, size, and individuality, just as Wenatchee community is similarly strengthened by the diversity of its people. And whereas the Dahlia Society in the Wenatchee area has taken the lead among cities in Washington State in proactively teaching techniques for optimizing strategies and making resources available for successful growing dahlias in a semi-arid desert condition. And whereas city has been selected by the Federation of Northwest Dahlia Growers as the host city for the 54th Annual American Dahlia Society 2020 National Dahlia Show. And now, therefore, I, Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, do hereby encourage anyone with an interest to see dahlias from participating exhibitors and growers from across North America and other countries to attend the exhibition at the 2020 National Dahlia Show on September 12 through 13, 2020 in Wenatchee, Washington. Eyewitness thereof, I have caused the seal of the City of Wenatchee to be affixed on this 13th day of February 2020.
Thank you, Councilmember Hornby. So who's here? Linda, come on up. Who's the rest of your crew? You're not by yourself. Come on. Oh, you? Good, nice to meet you. You're all gonna get your picture taken. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Who's gonna hold it? Middle, here you go. So give us a few moments. Tell us what day it is and all that sort of stuff. Sure, sit down, relax. We have if you want to stand, we got a microphone here, but sit down and tell us what's going on.
Okay, well, the National Dahlia Show is usually held in larger population centers. I've gone to National Dahlia shows in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Tacoma, Washington. Usually if it's in Washington State, it's on the west side. Wenatchee has made such an impact on the state and the state dahlia growers that this time they decided they wanted to have it in Eastern Washington. It has not been held in Eastern Washington since 1980 when it was held in Spokane. So being selected for this show is quite a tribute to Wenatchee and the dahlia growers in this area. The show will bring people, thousands of people from, well, not thousands of people, but thousands of dahlias, let's say, but hundreds of people from all across the United States. We'll also have guests here from Australia and Great Britain. And the show is open to the public. It's absolutely free and it's absolutely beautiful. And we'd like to invite you all to join us. The show itself starts on Saturday, the 12th of September. We are actually judging that morning, so we'll start judging around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Finish the judging, and you'll be able to come in at noon and see the prize-winning blooms. And then we will be open the whole day on Sunday. We will be at the convention center downtown. And you'll be seeing a lot of people around town during that week, a few days prior and a few days after. We have some nice tours planned. And we want to teach them all about what North Central Washington is like. A lot of them have no idea. They think we're a desert. I heard somebody say, dahlias in the desert? Yes, we can do that here. So we'd like to invite you all to come and join us. Come and look at the beautiful dahlias if you've never seen them before. We will have our gardens going this year again at the Wenatchee Valley Clinic, Confluence Health. And we also are working with Rocky Reach this year so that we are going to make the Rocky Reach Dahlia Garden the best since my dad was there. And he started the Dahlia Gardens back there around 1964. So we're going to be working with them. We'll be going out there and doing the weeding and pinching back and all that you have to do to make a beautiful garden. So come on out to Rocky Reach too and take a look at the flowers. They're just absolutely beautiful. So thank you very much for this proclamation. I will share this with the Federation of Northwest Dahlia Growers at our meeting on Saturday.
Great. Well, Linda, thanks so much. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
enthusiasm, and thanks for bringing all those people to Wenatchee, and we're excited to show off our town.
You bet. Thank you all very much for having us.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, Linda,
I got a question over here.
yeah.
Jim?
Just wanted to say that when I moved to Wenatchee in 1969, one of the first people I met was your dad.
Oh,
And never got into the dahlia business, but I've always appreciated his work and, stellar work out at Rocky Reach. So
yeah. He,
fond memories of that.
I remember. I know that he knew you because I
Yeah.
remember him talking about you. And, you guys are kind of cut out of the same piece of cloth when it comes to never seeing a stranger, right?
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Linda. All right, our next presentation is Heart Month Proclamation. Who has that one? Councilmember Kulas.
Whereas coronary heart disease is the #1 killer of both American males and females, and whereas 95% of cardiac arrest victims die before they reach a hospital, and whereas 75% of cardiac arrests occur in the home setting, and whereas lives can be saved through your help, and whereas the City of Wenatchee Employee Health Promotion Committee and the American Heart Association are committed to employee and public education about heart disease and stroke, and this year urge everyone to be a heart saver by knowing the warning signs of a heart attack, calling 911, and giving CPR. And whereas the City of Wenatchee encourages residents to adopt healthier lifestyles to reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases and stroke, and whereas the American Heart Association is the largest voluntary, not-for-profit organization whose mission is to reduce disability and death from cardiovascular diseases and stroke. Now, therefore, I, Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, do hereby proclaim February 2020 as Wenatchee Heart Month and hereby urge all community members to become heart savers and learn CPR. In witness whereof, I hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Wenatchee to be affixed on this 13th day of February 2020. Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kulas. Is anybody here from the Heart Association or Confluence Health to grab this? If not, we'll make sure that they get it. So, okay, thanks, Tammy. All right, and that concludes our proclamations. We have a number of action items here this evening, so we'll do those before we get to our public hearing items. So the first is regarding a surplusing of property from the former Washington State Department of Transportation site. So Matt Shells, you doing that?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Matt Shales, Development Project Manager. So in front of you, you have resolution number 2020-04 that declares certain real property surplus to the needs of the City of Wenatchee. So the property in question is within our North Wenatchee redevelopment project area. It is the former Washington State Department of Transportation property. Much like the process on the former Northwest Wholesale property, in 2018, the city surplused remnant parcels after dedicating right-of-way for Columbia Ave and McKittrick. So on the Washtop property, we have dedicated right-of-way for the North Wenatchee Avenue improvements. And so we're proposing that the remainder of the property be surplused. With the exception that prior to selling remnant parcels, the city will dedicate additional right-of-way as necessary to facilitate redevelopment of these parcels. So like building more of Columbia Avenue to the south. Yep.
In the smaller, I don't know what shape I'm looking at, that's the one that WashDOT is still cleaning up? The
Correct.
smaller internal parcel?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But tonight, we're going to surplus all of it, just because it's the process we have to go to if we actually sell any of it?
Yep.
Matt, excuse me, are we, we've talked at different times or whatever, but in the surplusing, are we going to at some point get those boundary adjustments where we get things squared up with the avenue rather than all these anti-Godland angled looking things?
Are you talking about property boundaries?
Yeah,
Or?
property boundaries.
That's the hope, and that's kind of that caveat prior to, as we realize those needs for redevelopment, we can then issue, that right of way.
Okay, at the point of
Prior to the sale
development,
of
that's
that.
when you straighten up the lines?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an odd shaped
Yeah.
in some of the property, yeah. So I know that the goal is to get it tilted and get it better used and.
Yep.
Oh,
Because I see like the yellow lines over there, everything's kind of like the way we'd like
Yep.
to see it, then we get the red lines and they aren't, so.
Right.
That was my question.
eventually, those yellow
Thank you.
lines will square off and we'll get all the stuff the way we want it.
Good.
Okay, any questions for Matt? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the city council to approve the resolution number 2020-04 declaring certain real estate property surplus to the needs of the city of Wenatchee.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Huffaker to approve Resolution 2020-04, declaring certain real property surplus to the needs of the city of Wenatchee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Got to remember my delay. Thanks, Matt. Mr. Erickson, RCO grant applications.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. This evening, I'm requesting approval of Resolution 2020-02, which would allow staff to apply for 2 separate state recreation conservation funding account grants. The first one is a YAF grant, which is a Youth Athletic Facility Account grant, and this would help pay for approximately half of the cost of replacing the pool liner. So the pool liner is the part of the pool that actually holds the water in, outside of the paint that we have in there right now. Our liner was last changed out in 1996. They typically last about 8 to 10 years. So we are living on borrowed time on that. The other grant is an acquisition project that we've talked about in executive session last October. Both of these applications have been reviewed by Arts and Rec and Park Commission, and they're recommending moving ahead with them. The grant applications are extremely labor intensive. They take generally about 7 months to complete. And they will be a challenge from a competition standpoint, I think, just from the type of projects they are with the other projects in the state. If we're authorized to move ahead, we would start that application process likely tomorrow. Wraps up in late September, and we should find out where we rank statewide in October, so you would know, going ahead, if it looks likely we would be funded or wouldn't be funded. And then if we're successful, we would have grant contracts from the state in July or August of 2021. And then the 2 projects would occur at different times. So the acquisition project, because it's an acquisition project, would occur by the end of 2021, because once you're awarded the grant, you have 90 days to complete that acquisition. The pool project would actually happen at the end of the 2022 season because of the timing of contracts and all of that stuff. Yeah, I guess that's it, unless you
So
have questions.
The
for me.
Finance Committee talked about it today, so I think you want to talk about the pool liner project in particular and the match and.
Yeah,
Sort of what we talked about today a little
Yeah,
bit?
so the pool liner project, it's roughly about an $800,000 project. We're thinking we can get about $350,000 because of grant limits from the grant if we're successful. The rest of it would have to come from some form of city funding or donations or something like that. So some of the sources out there could be general fund, it could be real estate excise tax as a use, lodging tax could be used. Projects I've been involved with similar in the past, we've used sponsorship or donations. We don't have anybody in line for any of that at this point on this. We would need to certify our match by April of 2021, so we have about a little more than a year to figure out where that match would come from, assuming we're successful. The other grant would be structured similar to what we've done with the land trust in the past for acquisition, so it'd be a very similar project where we'd use property donations and things like that to come up with a match for that project.
Yeah, so we had quite a discussion at finance because you're sort of committing some 2021 or 2022 reserve balance from our non-reoccurring sales tax to a pool project. So maybe it should have been heating and air conditioning units or carpet or something else, but you're sort of, if you get there, you're sort of talking about 2 years from now's, we've been doing $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year in one-time sales tax, that you would take that year's version and do a pool liner. Pool liner needs to get done. And so we just had a pretty good discussion. The consensus from the finance committee was to go ahead and do it. We didn't feel like we had many other options, but it did warrant quite a little conversation.
And at this point too, for the application, we're not locked into anything at this point. We're just applying. Really, when it comes down to grant acceptance, that's when you're really locked in. But from a workload standpoint and just from a appearance standpoint with the state, it's better to not apply than to apply and maybe get awarded and then say, oh no, sorry, we don't really want the money. That looks a little bit worse. Plus, then we've expended a lot of staff time to try to get the applications put together. So.
In your comments in here, talked about, basically the vinyl's gone, it's just the paint that's holding the water. Is this thing going to wait 3 more years?
We hope so. Yeah, I mean, we've been
certainly got our money's worth out of this
years.
one, but
yeah,
if it's getting to that point of deterioration, is it? I guess would be my concern. Is it not making it till on life support right now? So
There's usually a day in May when he calls me and says, the pool's full and it's not leaking that bad, but I have a celebratory glass of red wine because it's every year. It's like, is this going to be the last year? Yeah.
last year we ended up painting the majority of the bottom of the pool just because we were concerned that it wasn't going to hold the water in. And so that wasn't planned or anything, but we did that and the water held. So that was good. This year we have a little bit more. We'll know more once we drain it down and see. But we always walk around the pool too with a metal rod and we tap the bottom of the pool back and forth over the entire surface and you can hear where the hollow spots are, where it's popped off.
Well, I think we've kicked this can 13 plus years down the road. I think it's time that we pick it up and do something with it.
So I entertain a motion if we had one then.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the City Council to approve Resolution 2020-02, authorizing staff to prepare and submit Washington Recreation and Conservation Fund Board, WWRP Local Parks, and YAF grant applications.
Second on that.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby, to approve Resolution 2020-02, authorizing staff to prepare and submit Washington Recreation and Conservation Fund Board, WWRP Local Parks, and YAF grant applications. Discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, David.
Thank you. We'll keep you posted as we
Okay.
go along.
Good work.
All right. Amendment number 11 to the agreement between the City of Wenatchee and the Chelan County PUD. Hi, Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The item before you is really pretty simple. It's a update of an existing service agreement between City of Wenatchee and the PUD. On occasion, we provide police services within the park boundaries of Chelan County Public Utility District, Riverfront Park. And this is unfortunate that we have to redo this contract from an amendment standpoint every year, mostly based on collective bargaining agreements and what the new adjusted overtime rate is for officers. We are in a collective bargaining agreement negotiations this year, so hopefully once that's settled, we can actually enter in a 3-year agreement, and we'll just schedule out the adjusted average overtime rate for 3 years rather than coming back every single year. But as it is, that is what this amendment is for. The overall contract value is not to exceed $73,190.31. And normally, the police department is reimbursed for bicycle patrols during the heavy peak months during the summer. So that's what's before you, and we're just asking for the city council to approve the mayor's signature to the agreement.
And the hourly rate that we're referring to here that's an all-in cost, including benefits and
total
Social
recovery
Security,
for-
the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
And that's been working pretty well in the past, hasn't it? I haven't heard of any issues
Um,
that you guys have run into.
Yeah, so for quite a few years, we've been trying to build up staffing, and you all know our staffing woes with not finding the right folks, and that's really where we're at right now, is just being able to hire the very best. We have not participated in too much contracted work with the PUD, just simply because we couldn't afford to put the people on the bicycles during those summer months. We're now in a better state, so hopefully we'll be able to do some of that this summer. Hopefully start using some of the contract dollars.
All right, any other questions for Chief? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion for city council to authorize the mayor to sign the amendment to service agreement 10-182 with the Chelan County PU Public Utility District for agreement upon police services.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Cuevas, to authorize the mayor to sign the amendment to service agreement 10-182 with Chelan County Public Utility District for agreed upon police services. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Chief.
You bet.
All right, Planning Commission member, Mr. Glenn DeVries.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm pleased to have a recommendation from the Planning Commission to appoint Lael Asola to the vacant seat on the Planning Commission from Scott Griffith, who had maxed out his terms. And it was a unanimous recommendation or approval. Would stand for any questions you might have. She will be officially annexed on March 16th. And so this would be, if approved, would be delayed for that to be official. It's already been approved. We just have that time period afterwards. And for a variety of things, notices, utilities, that type of thing. And so she would, if approved, would be able to serve on the March Planning Commission agenda. And you've probably seen her attend many council meetings.
Yeah, she's back there. Wave at us.
Oh, she is.
Well, this would be the time when we would discuss her merits directly with the... Or I would entertain a motion for approval.
Well, Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the city council to approve resolution number 2020-05, appointing voting representative to the Wenatchee Planning Commission to fill a term ending December 31, 2023, and that would be Lael Asola.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey and a second by Councilmember Cuevas to approve Resolution 2020-05, appointing a voting representative, that being Lael Sola, to the Wenatchee Planning Commission to fill the term ending December 31st, 2023. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Lael. All right, next up is an authorization to sign the GSA lease amendment. Aaron and Elise?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Aaron Kelly, Operations Manager.
Alyssa Webb, Facilities Manager.
We're here tonight to speak to you about the former City Hall remodel project for Social Security. And since September, staff has been negotiating the tenant improvement portions of the lease with GSA. Last week, we prepared the lease amendment in your packet. The terms have since changed in the city's favor, and there is no need for this amendment. But keeping with our time frame and knowing the fact that there has been several changes as we've gone through this process, we are asking the City Council to authorize the mayor to negotiate and finalize the final lease terms with GSA.
So you've seen the final, we adopted the overall lease a number of, probably sometime middle of last year. We've been went through the bid process. We got the bids back. We got a low bidder. TIs were more expensive than Social Security wanted to pay. Our staff's been working with Social Security. They've got it down to a point where we sort of agreed to some stuff. The lease changes are actually in our benefit. The prepayment is not going to be 6 months free, only 4 months free. They're paying more of the portion, so things have actually got quite a bit better. The agreement that's in your packet, though, isn't probably going to be the final agreement. There's going to be a couple of small tweaks, again, all in the city favor, but the contractor's ready to go, and no one wants to wait 2 weeks, and so I think staff is asking for you guys to give me a little leeway to get this thing to the finish line, probably early next week, I'm guessing.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Example of tweaks that might come up in the next 2 weeks?
You know, right now, not necessarily knowing what they might come up with. The last terms was the $90,000 for us to allocate over the 10-year lease term. We don't see that that's going to happen at this point, but there could be a small amount. It could be, you know, a $10,000 improvement that they want to be able to put in to the lease terms, and then we would, again, allocate that over the 10-year lease terms to be able to get the money back.
So when we open up the bids, if you believe the bids, we were in for how much of the TI? 700,000?
So when we opened up the bids, we were still going to be,
We're at 1.1.
1.1, okay. So over the course of the last 4 or 5, 6 months, GSA said, no, we'll pay for this. We won't put this in we'll pay for this, we'll pay for this. And so our out-of-pocket that was going to get added to the rent just kept going down and down and down. I think when they did this, it was 90, and now they're saying it's going to be less than that. So again, they're doing a fantastic job of working it to our benefit, and they're doing what they're doing. We're just not quite to the finish line. And we approved the contract with Clark in October?
September.
September. So they're like, when do I get to start? Do we got to start the whole process over again? And we're, no, we're ready.
and our plan is to be able to give a notice to proceed on the 25th.
Right.
So this is kind of timing-wise, is to
Yeah.
be able just to ask if there is any final changes for us to be able to get it through.
And I have no problem emailing you a copy when we're done so you guys can review the final stuff, but I think sounds like it's really close.
And I guess my only thing is giving you the authorization to approve it, and then something major comes up, and so where's the definition of tweaks versus,
Yeah. So you just have to trust me or them.
and you think we trust you?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a minute, won't we? So, and
That is.
Yes, I would say what you see in your council agenda report would be the worst-case scenario. And
Okay.
right now, that's not the case.
Well, with that in mind, I'll make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to sign the lease amendment number 1, except that we just change that to the lease?
yeah, I think a motion to
'Cause
authorize the
You said
mayor.
amendment number 1,
Yeah.
we're off, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'll make
maybe,
a motion for the city council council to authorize the mayor to sign a lease with GSA for 129 South Chelan Avenue and further authorize the mayor to sign the lease amendment number 2 regarding the issuance of the notice to proceed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Bailey, authorize the mayor to sign lease amendment number 1 with GSA for 129 South Chelan Avenue and further authorize the mayor to sign the lease amendment number 2 regarding the issuance of the notice to proceed. The lease in substantially the same form as is presented, giving the mayor an ability to negotiate final terms.
Remind me, Your Honor, what the reason for why we're giving them 4 months, was 6, so I guess we gained some there, but why are we giving them free rent for?
So that was part of the negotiations back when we decided to enter into the negotiations with GSA. When we put together, we were competing with other property owners in town to get this done. So we were sort of going, well, what's the going rate? Can we get 23 bucks a square foot? Yeah, we probably can get 23 bucks a square foot. Do we put a sweetener in because we really want them here? So I think the sweetener was a few months of free rent as a sweetener to make sure that we got the lease. Okay.
Okay.
In hindsight, maybe we didn't need to do that. There were other bidders. We got the bid, but that's the reason that was in there.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. We've had discussion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Look at
Thanks
that, we still trust you. For this round.
for this round.
For now, eh?
All right. So Confluence Parkway Coordination Memorandum of Understanding.
Good evening,
King.
Mayor and Council. Steve King, Economic Development Director. So we had this before you back in December, before our last meeting, and we were excited about getting this done. And so we had the concept presented to you in terms of how the city and the PUD are working together on Confluence Parkway. And the council asked to see the final MOU. And so I'm here tonight bringing the final MOU forward. And I'll just go over it really briefly because it's a lot of environmental law type language. And I'll tell you that it really comes down to this MOU establishes how we coordinate Federal Highways Administration environmental compliance and Federal Energy Regulatory Commission environmental compliance. And the reason why the reason why we're working with FERC is that Confluence Parkway will require that we obtain property that's currently within the FERC boundary and within the limits of the Rock Island Dam license. And so what the PUD has to do is submit an amendment to FERC to remove those lands from the license for our right-of-way. And so what happens is what we've worked out is that we're developing an environmental assessment for Federal Highways Administration, and that same environmental assessment, if we address all the issues, gets submitted to FERC for the license amendment. So we're killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. That's easier said than done, and this agreement gets into all the nuances of how you do that. So when we go do an ESA consultation, we're doing it for Federal Highways Administration and FERC at the same time, because the last thing you want to do is go do it for one agency and then have to go do it all over again for another agency. So it's really an innovative approach to federal law compliance. And it also, the other thing that this agreement does is it establishes who is speaking for the state park. Because most people think that's Washington State Parks. It is Washington State Parks that owns or that operates it, but it's Chelan PUD that owns all that property. So this agreement establishes that Chelan PUD will be the spokesperson for both entities, and that is a really critical thing because it would be very challenging to try to get two answers out of two entities for the same property. So that's the meat of this agreement.
So the component that's in the FERC boundary, is it the stuff against the railroad tracks and the stuff in the park?
Yes.
Also, so the stuff next to the railroad tracks where the trail currently is
Yeah.
inside the FERC boundary.
It's in the FERC boundary and it's in the area operated by Washington State Park. So if you
Okay.
ride your bike there or walk, you'll see a little sign that says entering Washington State Park.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's actually PUD property
Okay.
operated by state parks all the way to the other side of the camping area.
Okay.
Steve, is the right of way, are we far enough along in the planning, the engineering, that we know that for sure that's going to be where it's going to be, or would there still be the possibility that there may be some rerouting or adjustments or changes or whatever? I mean, are we capturing, I guess my question is, are we capturing enough in there so we don't have to come back, if we want to make a change, that we have to come back and go through this all over again?
Yes, that would be the effort that we're going through. The environmental compliance effort will nail that down because things can change a little bit as a result of environmental analysis. And so, for example, over by the area where the current state parks operation yards are, we've already moved things. And this allows for that to happen so that when you're done with the environmental assessment, you know exactly where your right-of-way is. Yeah. There's really no way to avoid the park area. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
All right. I know this is a somewhat complicated agreement. Any other questions for Steve King while we have him here? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding between Chelan County PUD and the city of Wenatchee for the purpose of NEPA compliance for Confluence Parkway.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hornby, a second by Councilmember Cuevas to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Chelan County PUD and the city of Wenatchee for the purposes of NEPA compliance for Confluence Parkway. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Good work on that.
Thank you.
All right, we've got two public hearings this evening. The first regarding apparently a scrivener's error. I don't know why Mr. Scrivener is making errors, but we'll see if we can fix some of those. And then the hours regarding marijuana-related businesses. So for public hearings, we'll hear from staff first. We'll ask them questions, and then when we're done, we'll turn it over to any members of the audience that wish to address the council on that item, and then we'll turn it back over to the council for any action they may be willing to take. So at this point, we'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Glenn DeVries to talk about our housing code update.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Glenn DeVries, Community Development. So if you recall the packet when you received it from the Planning Commission, it was a bit voluminous. And the recommendation from the Planning Commission was transferred into an ordinance format. And in doing so, it's just with the sheer volume of materials, when the law office was doing that, it's very easy to miss, a couple tweaks here and there on cross through and underlines, strike through and underlines. So you'll see here, there's just some hit and miss, no rhyme or reason. It's just, with that huge of a packet, it's they did exceptional work getting that to us in a short time frame. So we're very pleased and thankful for the work they did. It's just, we told you there'd be some things we need to clean up over time, and this is one of them. And working with Code Publishing, they pointed out a few things. And so we're
Does this in any way affect anybody's ability to develop a lot differently before or after the Scrivener's error?
No, we'll be okay with that. They're pretty minor. But and this will go into effect fairly quickly. So we're just asking that this be approved so that the whole recommendation from the Planning Commission can be enacted. Stand for any questions.
Any questions for Glenn before we turn it over to any members of the audience? No. Okay, any members of the audience wish to address the city council on this public hearing item regarding the updated Scrivener's error for our housing code update? Seeing no takers, I will turn it over to the council for any action they'd be willing to take.
Your Honor, I make a motion that the council adopt ordinance number 2020-07, correcting the Scrivener's errors to titles 10 and 11.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Huffaker to adopt ordinance 2020-07, correcting the scrivener's errors to titles 10 and 11. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the public hearing on the housing code update. When I'll open the public hearing regarding hours of operation for marijuana-related businesses. Glenn DeVries.
Thank you. In 2019, a local business owner of a marijuana-related retail store approached the council and asked that the hours of operation be changed to match what's allowed under state law under the Washington Administrative Code, which is from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. And also that could then match what regionally are the hours of operation for other businesses in the area. And so at that time, staff was asked to go and research that and also see if there had been any concerns or issues in the operation of retail businesses. And so we've done so. We looked regionally and we found that the entire region is following the 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. standards set by the Washington Administrative Code. And we checked with our police department, and they had not did not express any concerns with respect to the hours of operation or the retail businesses per se. So staff would certainly stand for any questions, but recommends that you consider an amendment to this component of code to match what other jurisdictions are doing in the area and need to match what the law provides for from to go to 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Daily. Stand for any questions.
Do we know why we chose 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
I'm not certain.
We'll blame that on Councilmember Rutherford maybe or somebody.
Steve, do you recall why it was done that?
I would almost guess that that is what the state LCB standard was, and then it's since changed. So I think we were, yeah, it's hazy, but I think we were trying, hazy, what a term to use in this case. We were trying to follow state law quite a bit.
All right, any questions for Glenn? All right, we'll turn it over to any members of the audience. We'll just rest the council on the hours of operations for marijuana-related businesses. Anybody wish to address the council on this item? See no takers. I will turn it over to the council for any action they may be willing to take.
So it's going to stay, if we go for it, it's going to be 12 a.m.?
Yeah, midnight.
Midnight, so 8 a.m. to midnight each day, and that matches what's in East Wenatchee and the surrounding cities as well.
As I heard from some continuants, why is there a reason that people want to buy marijuana so late? You know, that's why there's maybe issues and problems out there in the streets. And they want to keep it at 8, but I mean, that's what other people want. I don't know. I mean, there's concerns out there. Late night, why are people late night buying marijuana stuff?
And what could the impacts be if they're out there doing that later? My personal feeling is those were the hours we set when they signed up for a business license, and they were adequate then. I don't know that I feel like we need to change it.
I think what I hear is, you know, alcohol is legal, right? Should you be drinking at midnight? I don't know. Maybe not. There's a lot of people that leave Wenatchee and drive to East Wenatchee to buy marijuana at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why, as a business owner in Wenatchee, that I shouldn't have the ability to do what my neighboring folks are doing. So I don't know how the hours of operations got expanded for all the rest of them, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't adopt to the standard that all of our neighbors are doing and allow these people that are in a legal business to compete on the same footing as the other businesses. It's not like it's a...
So I guess, Frank?
Yeah.
Is the chief still around?
Yep. He's in the back.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he can come up and talk to us a little bit about, have we seen any, uptick in crime or anything like that? Because, I mean, if we have seen any, issues having to do with marijuana usage, being open till 8, I'd say just keep it at 8. But if we haven't, 8 to 12, it's here, and I was adamantly opposed to, the sales of marijuana in Wenatchee in the first place. But I'm of the opinion right now we haven't seen anything, significant, and I don't see why we wouldn't push it from 8 to 12.
All right, let's hear from
It's
Chief.
already there.
Chief's here. He'll let you know.
Thank you. So there are no studies statewide regarding the benefits or problems with having later hours for marijuana sales. Remember, by the very nature of the initiative that the voters of the state of Washington voted on, you cannot consume marijuana out on the streets. This is something that is generally consumed back home or other locations other than just out in anywhere. If it is consumed in public, we generally have a problem with that, and somebody walks away with some paper in their pocket. So as far as studies are out there, I would just reiterate that there aren't really anything that show that having those stores open later in hours has really any impact on your crime rates or anything like that. Again, this is something that's similar to the mayor's analogy, going to 7-Eleven and taking something home and then consuming it there. So not having that statistical information to go off of, I was very appreciative of some of the industry that are pushing for the change in hours, reaching out to me and having a discussion over the phone before we got to this stage. I expressed that I have no reference to say that I oppose it. As time goes on, maybe a study like that can come out, but there's nothing really out there at this point.
And if we moved them to 8 to midnight, we could always go back the other way if we have the ability to regulate it that way.
Sure.
So, yeah. Okay.
Anything anecdotally, Chief, on, East Wenatchee or Chelan, where there are instances of late night?
So the violations that we're seeing, particularly in that time frame, are the folks that don't take it home and then have problems with their driving. We have seen, since the legalization of marijuana, I believe the statistics that are now published by the Traffic Safety Commission for Washington is that there is now a 37% increase since the initiative took effect of poly, drug, alcohol-related DUIs. And so that just means that there's a mix of everything under the sun that has increased. So, yeah, that's a problem. Our biggest thing is driving under the influence. And so other related crimes, not so much that we're seeing anything that is significant.
So if we sell it later into the night and it's really hard to distinguish between a cigarette and marijuana in a car, you can tell the way they smoke it, what they're doing, because you don't typically hold cigarette smoke in.
Yeah.
I've followed several cars they think they can get away with it. And to me, if you sell it for longer, especially at night when it's dark, that number is going to increase. That's my personal feeling.
I, for example, I understand what you're saying about with liquor, but you can't compare it, because liquor, you can use it like in a banquet, celebrate a night gathering with somebody, but I don't see the marijuana celebration of something. I mean, that's my point of view.
Your Honor, make a motion for the City Council to adopt ordinance number 2020-10, amending City Code WCC Section 5.12.120 relating to the hours of operation for retail marijuana related to businesses.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Kulas to adopt ordinance 2020-10, amending Wenatchee City Code WCC Section 5.12.120 relating to the hours of operation of retail marijuana-related businesses. So we've had some discussion. Is there further discussion? Or are we prepared to vote?
Yeah, we're ready to vote, I think. I just wanted to just briefly say that to me, it makes sense to have, in the absence of any, dramatic evidence here, that to have consistency with state law. And so I will vote for this.
We can always go back, right? Like,
We can always
like
change
you
it.
said, if it,
Yep. For some reason we got problems, we can always go back the other way.
To me, a 37% increase sounds like evidence that it has gone up, so I'll be voting no.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 4 in favor, 2 against. So that concludes our public hearing items for this evening. Mayor's report. I generally look at my calendar and try to figure out what's been going on in our world. Boy, it's been a couple weeks since we've met, so trying to figure out, yeah, just lots going on. I've been in Olympia, I think, twice since we met, so we do have a housing bill that's sort of gaining some traction over in Olympia. So I've been over 3 times this year, twice in the last 2 weeks to testify. So we'll see whether it keeps going or not. Our local legislative delegation is working really hard with that. Laura and I had our regular meeting with Chelan County Commissioners on a number of issues. We meet on the first Tuesday of the month. We met with some folks down at Bridge Street. There's some discussion about maybe if we get the infra grant and the bridge goes further into closer to Wenatchee Avenue, that maybe that would look a little different, maybe with some taco trucks and food trucks in that little area just to the east on Wenatchee Avenue. Some of that property is owned by the Reclamation District in the street, and just so met with some of the South End community, just trying to figure out what that would look like. I did meet with Chief Crown, and I believe we have a list for the Civil Service Commission. So as you guys know, the 3 commissioners who've served for a long, long time all resigned at the same time. So I'm in the process of appointing 3 new members to the Civil Service Commission. So I think at the next meeting, we'll have that list to make public. So, and then we'll be doing more of that stuff. I went to the Apple Blossom Pageant on Saturday evening. So we have a queen and 2 new princesses. Met with some high school kids working on their normal Citizen Washington projects. Transportation Council this morning was fine, mostly talked about, we did a study looking at traffic through the Leavenworth area on the big holidays and how to sort of fix that. So at least there'll be a study at some point that we'll adopt. Finance Committee today, and then of course City Council. Councilmember Bailey told us today that he will not be attending the next 2 Public Works ED meetings. Those are Tuesday mornings. We'll meet the 18th and again on March 3rd at 8:15. So if somebody wants to replace Councilmember Bailey, it's always nice to have 3 folks there. So if you just let Tammy know, or those would be the next 2 meetings that he'll miss.
What's the time again?
8:15. And we're usually done by about 10.
Okay, and while we're on that subject, I won't be there next week either.
Okay.
So we need somebody else
So we need 2
to
people.
come to the Public Works,
Okay.
and I won't be there for the work session.
Okay.
I have the chamber meeting that morning, but they get done about 7:30, 7:45, so I should be able to make that
Okay.
on the 18th.
Okay, so we'll see what we can work
Can you
on.
meet upstairs?
Yes, upstairs in the room we met at earlier today. Yeah. Council members, anything for the good of the order on the meetings that you're attending?
We had a Bike Lane First Street meeting
Yes?
down at the New America Center. 3 gentlemen to my left here were there as well. So some concerns came up from some business owners. Overall project they were happy about, but I think we have some opportunity to possibly make some adjustments. So I would like to be part of that discussion with Public Works. If anybody else would like to join me, that'd be great, but I'd like to lead that up with looking at all the other alternatives that were in the initial study and seeing if there's something that would maybe not make everybody happy, but make everybody be able to walk away with, I got something.
So do we still have some time on final design stuff, Rob? What's our sort of a window here?
We do, so I think we're prepared to pause, with council direction.
Okay.
Before we would invite in, we bring some of the people that were vocal about what they like to see down there. I think we've got maybe down to 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2, and then they come bring it back to Public Works
Okay.
Committee, report out, and so I'm thinking maybe less than 30 days.
Okay, good, okay.
That sounds
Yeah, that'd be great. I sort of look at that project and I divide it into the 2 chunks. It's the traffic circles between Miller and Chelan, which the people in the neighborhood that I've talked to are really excited about slowing down the cars and making it more pedestrian friendly. Then I think you got the section that's part of downtown that includes a loss of parking. And I think you've got the downtown business owners that are sort of concerned about that, so.
And
Yeah.
my take on it was, as soon as everybody saw the size of the traffic circles that we're talking about, that went away and wasn't part of the discussion. There was a few people excited that thought we were going to cut into people's property.
Right,
and
yeah.
Put in a mini circle and all
Yeah.
that, but I think once they saw the picture of it and how that related to the intersection, they were okay with it. There was a lot of questions about how plows would get around it, the school buses and so on, but as we learned, you can actually take a left in front of them
Okay,
and be legal.
excellent.
Sounds like roulette to me, but
Okay.
And parking in downtown is always a discussion, like the weather.
Yeah.
And there are some issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those to me and I'll follow
Yeah.
up with Chief and our folks.
I'd like to see if we couldn't pursue the customer first parking program that the study recommended. I don't think enough of a follow-up happened with that to really get that going, to get employees to leave parking space for customers. That would help immensely.
And I think as sort of, as you know, Steve and I've talked about this off and on over the last year and a half or so, it really requires probably a full-time dedicated, if you're gonna have a parking program, you need a city employee to be out doing the stuff and meeting with I mean, I don't think you can take a quarter of someone's time and say you're in charge of making sure people, I mean, it's a full effort. And we just gotta be committed to saying, yes, that's what we wanna do. It's more than our parking guy driving around doing tickets, and that's certainly one of the things, but a full parking program, because you're gonna have one for downtown, you're gonna have one for out by Confluence Health, because they've got, you know, they built their parking garage and they want the residential parking for residences, and if their employees are parking there, they want, so it is not all about just downtown, there's other spots. And so if you're committed to that, then I think we need to figure out, Chief and I will work on some of the stuff we can do initially, and then just putting a program together and putting someone to execute the program. Is that right, Steve? Is that right, Laura? You guys all do this more than I do, so. Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
So from solid waste, we got a little initial update on how the moderate waste facility is going. I did bring some flyers if anybody's interested in those. It basically lists their hours and the type of material that they will take. It's a little slow. The first couple weeks they were open, you know, a lot of that pent up storage showed up. But since then, it's been kind of slow. And so we're kind of in a monitoring stage right now. What do our hours need to look like? Maybe during winter months, we need to just go down to 1 day. And then during spring cleanup, when everybody's trying to get rid of stuff, then maybe we'll increase those hours. So kind of a look and see with them.
Painting season.
Painting season, yes. And one thing that is a little confusing is a lot of people are trying to bring latex paints out, or water-based paints, and we don't take those. We take oil-based, but not water-based. So water-based, you can leave the lid off now and just let it dry up and throw it in your garbage. So the other thing that goes with that is Douglas County's involvement. They're still taking we're going to watch and see what you do for the next year. And then when you have some numbers, then we'll decide whether we're going to join you or not. So that's kind of the way it is right now. They've been encouraged by how much donations have come in.
Good.
People are not afraid to donate to have their things taken care of. So that's been real good and positive.
Good.
A lot of positive feedback.
All right, anybody else? All right, so next week, we got a work session. If you want to go on the tour, are we going to have some van or something to take us someplace and go out and check out regional water, and what else we checking out? Okay, perfect. And then we'll have 3 or 4 items for our work session, so just let the council member, or let Steve know, or Tammy, if you're going to be here for the tour.
What time is that?
3 o'clock. You driving the bus?
You want me to?
Okay.
He's licensed. Anyway.
Bring us a link bus, just steal one, Richard will never know. Bring us one of those battery-powered ones, yeah.
For the tour, we meet down front.
Yeah, we'll
You
meet.
should have waited till we were off the record
Yeah,
before you
we'll meet
said that.
outside at 3, right? Steve, you guys want us to meet here at 3? Yep. Yeah,
Agenda set,
What day is
all
this?
that stuff. Yeah.
Thursday, before our council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Anna can drive, she's got long legs, she get the pedal and she'll just, yeah. Got it. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.